First, we're going to talk about Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close.
Yes, and it deals with a difficult subject, the attacks of 9/11, but it's definitely it has much more than that involved. 14-year-old newcomer Thomas Horn stars as Oscar, who's very smart, but he also has issues with anxiety and socialization. His father, played by Tom Hanks, knew how to get the best out of his son. They loved to play word games, and he would send Oscar on adventures throughout New York City that would force him to use his mind and talk with people. When his father dies in the World Trade Center attacks, Oscar and his mother, played by Sandra Bullock, are devastated, unable to make sense out of what happened. A year later, while in his father's closet, Oscar finds a key that he believes his father left for him as part of a final adventure. So he begins a quest to find the lock that goes with the key, hoping what's inside will provide some answers. Along the way, Oscar meets many people, some who change his life and he changes theirs.
Now, I know that this was obviously a really serious subject matter, especially from the point of view of the little boy. Does it work?
It absolutely does. I mean, it's based on a novel that dealt with the 9/11 attacks in much more detail. This story is pretty simple, a young boy in his own way trying to deal with the sudden death of his father, but the script and the performances make it work.
I know you also mentioned, obviously, Hanks and Bullock. They're pretty good in just about everything. What about Thomas Horn and his role?
He's outstanding in his first role. He was discovered by the director Stephen Daldry, who saw him during Kids Week on Jeopardy! There's a tremendous amount of dialogue and raw emotion that goes into his role, and he just nails it.
And lastly, a grade for this film.
Yes, on the official Get Quick report card, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close gets a B+. I think it deserves a Best Picture Oscar nomination.
Wow.
Yes.
Very nice. And another 2011 film that's finally out in wide release is The Iron Lady.
That's
Obviously, Meryl Streep playing in that role as Margaret Thatcher.
Definitely has some Oscar buzz, and she really deserves an Oscar nomination and possible win. Right from the first time Streep is on screen, it's hard to recognize her because she is Margaret Thatcher, and that convincing portrayal continues throughout the entire film. Much of the story of Thatcher's life is shown in flashbacks. Alexandra Roach plays Thatcher as a young girl. We see how she developed the drive to get into politics, how she had to fight the men who ignored and dismissed her because of her gender, and how she made it to the top. Along with the flashbacks, director Phyllida Lloyd uses another device to provide some insight into Thatcher, her deceased husband Dennis, played by Jim Broadbent. He's seen through hallucinations by the elderly Thatcher, and the couple carry on conversations and discuss events of the past. This choice by Lloyd shows Margaret as quite a different person from the one who was one of the most powerful leaders in the world during her time in office. The flashback scenes provide a look of Thatcher fighting hard for England against the odds and at times against everyone else. She's really inspiring.
So, Jackson, let's start off with Meryl Streep. Is she as good as advertised here?
She's amazing in this role. And let's be honest, Meryl Streep should win an Oscar for practically every role she's in. I mean, she is the best actress working today, and nobody comes in at a close second.
Oh, that's a very good recommendation.
Yes.
Also, this is a historical biopic, so the look is obviously important, right?
Yeah, the film is very authentic, highlighted by the wardrobes and the sets. Actual news footage is used, though we never really see Margaret Thatcher's real face, which is very interesting. My main problem with the film is that there's too much of Thatcher as an old lady and not as much as the Iron Lady, even though that's the title of the film.
And lastly, we need to get a grade for Iron Lady.
Yes, on the official Get Quick report card, the Iron Lady gets a B. I definitely think it's a must-see for Streep's performance.